Hey everyone, and welcome to paradise. You may have seen my video a few weeks ago that I put together on my poetry exploits during the lockdown of COVID. I did mention during that I was filming from my lovely Strawbale house in the country, where I still am, and there was a fair bit of interest in the house itself, so I did say at the time I would be putting together another video. And here it is. I was kind of sparked into action by the Green Oval presentation last week. So yeah, I'm here still in central Victoria, about 30 minutes northwest of Ballarat, with a very annoying fly buzzing around me. As you can see, it's a glorious day. The sun's shining off my head there. Maybe a little bit windy. I hope the sound's not too bad. Yeah, so this is a Strawbale house that myself and my partner Alex built. She has a certain amount of expertise in the construction industry, which is quite handy. I know which end of a screwdriver to hold, so that was pretty much all we needed. So this house is like I say, it's Strawbale. It's built with a lightweight steel frame, which we built ourselves. We built the walls ourselves. It's built on passive solar principles, and I'll go into that a bit later in the video. So there's no air conditioning here. We do have wood-fired heating with an underfloor heater that we use in the winter. But yeah, during the summer, generally this place is going to be several, maybe at least 10 degrees, 15, 20 degrees lower than the ambient temperature outside. The straw that we built the house from basically is insulation, right? So it's we've got very, very thick walls, and I'll show you those in a moment. A straw bale, typically a standard straw bale, is 450mm thick, and then when you take into account render and various other things, our walls would actually be over half a metre thick of solid insulation. So you know, sometimes on a hot day you come in from outside, it's really hot, and it's like walking into a cool room. It's really nice. And kind of the same thing in the winter. If it's cold outside, you know, we're very well insulated against the cold too. All right, let's have a look at some of the features. The frame of the house is a lightweight steel construction. This was pretty convenient because it was basically meant that we could build it ourselves. So it was like putting a large Meccano kit together, and I'll show you some time-lapse video in a minute to give you an idea of the sort of thing that we were doing. I'm presently stood down beneath the I guess the tallest part of the house. So this tower above me, I think the longest piece was about 7 meters long of the longest column in the house of the lightweight steel, and we were basically able, just Alex and myself were able to put that up. Basically, with one person stood at the base of it and then just walking it up vertically like a ladder, putting on all the cross pieces just to hold it all together, and that was quite achievable for just 2 people. So it was pretty impressive. In terms of the exterior finish to the house, you can see both the 2 finishes are sort of here. So behind me here you can see the rendered wall. So the majority of the house is rendered with a lime and sand mixture. And that's the natural colour that it's in. It's not painted or anything, so it sort of comes out in that sandy colour. And then obviously here, if I can put my hand in the right place, you can see in the tower we've got this clad with colour bond. So this is just a more of an architectural feature to have some slightly different finishes on the house. Yeah, so they're the 2 different external finishes that we've got. All the windows and doors in the house are double glazed, of course. Really doesn't seem to be much point making a whole house out of insulation if you then put rubbish windows in it. So, and they were certainly one of the more expensive elements of the building. I think the whole set of doors and windows for the house cost getting on for $50,000. As you can see, they're timber on the inside, but they're also, and if I swing around, you can see that they're actually aluminium on the outside. So we've got a nice combination between having a nice, easy, no maintenance on the outside, but also with the thermal properties of the timber on the inside. So one of the problems with metal frame windows is that you can get a lot of conduction through the metal, obviously. So the timber obviously takes care of that, with the timber being a much more insulating material than the aluminium. And obviously the double glazed glass will hold us in good stead in terms of keeping the heat out in the summer and keeping the heat in the winter, which is obviously what we need. In terms of the interior finishes, we've got 4 different interior finishes, I think. Lots of straw bale houses. If you go the full rustic method, you can do what we've got here, which is a clay render. So just this room, just so that we could say we've actually done some, is rendered in clay. And this is basically the clay that we dug up out of the footings of the building. So yeah, it's a really nice, it feels lovely, it looks great. It's a lot of work, it takes ages. So this room was basically hand rendered by Alex pretty much on her own, because I wasn't all that keen on the idea, or not of the work anyway. So yeah, this is what clay render can look like. We've also got, so what you can see behind me is plasterboard, plasterboard ceiling in this room, and a plasterboard stud wall behind, with a walk-in road behind there. We've also got areas internally of the render, for the same render as outside, the line render, and quite a few areas where we've just got bare plywood. So you can see the sort of plywood soffit around above me. There's quite a lot of that through the house as well. Some of the ceilings and some of the walls. Just, yeah, no particular functional reason, just for a bit of variety. As I said, the walls in this place are super thick. You can see the wall behind me, even just the depth across here between in the reveal to the window shows our half-metre thick walls. And just in case people don't believe that our house is actually made of straw, which it is, we even have our little truth window that you can see here. So this is a window that just goes into the wall. You can't see through it, but you can in fact see the straw bales there. So it's true. Okay, so here we are outside. I'm currently stood on the west side of the house. So behind me in that direction is north, where the sun's coming from, and you can sort of see that from the shadows on the ground. This west side of the house, as you can see, has no windows in it. The reason for that is that in the evening, the west sun would basically be coming around from behind, literally shining full onto these walls, and it's very hard to get that sun blocked because it's quite low, and won't be able to be blocked by eaves like we can on the north side. So right now is a pretty good illustration of how the passive solar works. Obviously we're here, it's just about the middle of the day, it's about 12:30. Nice sunny day in November, so we're a little bit away from the middle of summer, and you can see quite clearly on the walls behind me where the shadow line is from the eaves. You can see it's pretty much well down the line of the walls there. Touching up a photograph, we can see it's just about going onto the inside of the house today. So if I just wander back, you can just about see, I think, the shadow line on the inside of how much light, how much sun of this summer sun is getting into the house. So obviously that's having a pretty good effect. The eaves up above me are leaving the windows in shadow, so we're not pumping heat into the house that we don't want on this nice warm summer's day. Obviously if we were in the middle of winter now, the sun behind me to the north would be much lower, and basically this line that you can see right down here on the wall would probably be way up near the top of the window. So we'd effectively be getting all of the sun blazing in through the windows in the winter when it's cold, warming up the house. The floor on the inside is concrete, so that's a really good heat sink. So that's going to take all of that blazing sun that comes during the day and shines onto the floor. Basically it warms the floor up, and then in the evening when the sun's gone, that heat comes back into the house, so it keeps the house warm. And that in a nutshell is what passive solar means. Okay, so electricity we ask. So I'm now in our shed. where I'm showing you all of the wonderful gubbins that runs our solar electricity system in the house. We are entirely off the grid. We do have a generator backup, but the system that we've got really is large enough that we don't really ever have to use the generator, so that's good. So basically we've got nearly 7 kilowatts of panels on the roof above me. I'll show you those in a moment. And the battery pack of 40 plus kilowatt hours out the back, of lead acid batteries out the back, just also underneath the shed, out of range. Generally speaking, we're finding that's plenty enough power to keep us going. We do throughout the place have low power appliances. All of the lighting is LEDs, and we generally try and purchase energy efficient appliances where we can. Having said that, this system seems to be more than adequate, that we really don't need to be overly concerned. While we've been working from home during COVID, we've been running multiple computers, both having big extra monitors. The fridge is going all the time, washing machines and all sorts of stuff. So we really have found that this system is entirely adequate for our electrical needs. I will endeavour to answer any questions on this one, because I'm sure this is a nice nerdy topic for the engineers out there, but I'll see how I go. All right. Yeah, as I mentioned, the solar panels are here on the roof of the shed, so they're not, disturbing the visual lines of the house. Although we could have put them on the house, but we figured it was slightly better just to keep them out here on the shed. It's a bit easier to get access to if you need to climb up there and clean them. And there's 6.7 kilowatts of panels sat up there supplying all our needs. Obviously, being off grid not only involves making your own power, but obviously we need water too. So all of our water is basically harvested off the roof. When we purchased this block and started building the house, we were right in the middle of the long drought back a few years ago. So we kind of figured that we would need some very seriously large water tanks so that we really never missed the opportunity to collect water when the storms came. So this tank that you see behind me is pretty huge. That's 77,000 litres. And we also have a second tank over from the shed, which is 33,000 litres. And that 110,000 litres for us would probably last at least 2 years, even if it never rained. Interestingly, what we have found since we've had the place is that these tanks just stay full the whole time, more or less. We've had enough rainfall in the last few years to get them full, and really every time it rains with any significant amount, we find that they actually fill up and overflow. So maybe we didn't need such large tanks, but I guess one of the good things with that is that to get larger tanks really doesn't cost a lot more. Obviously you've got that sort of length to area ratio benefit, so to double, if you double the size of the tank, you get 4 times the volume effectively in terms of price. So once you've decided you're going to have a reasonably large tank, getting a one that's twice the size really doesn't cost very much more. So I think we're pretty comfortable with these large tanks, and real estate really isn't an issue for us because we're on 74 acres here. So I can see off into the distance. I can't even see my boundary from here, so not really too worried about the extra space that the tanks take up. Not so much to see here, and probably not something you want to see in any great detail. But underneath the bin that you can see behind me is our worm farm composting toilet. So basically all of our grey water and black water goes into here. So from the toilet, the shower, the sink, basically all of our water waste ends up inside a tank that's under the ground there. It's about 5,000 litre tank, and it's full of worms. There's basically a pump inside there, so when the water level gets to a certain point, it takes all that water up to an effluent field, which is away here behind me. It's about 50 or 60 metres up the road there. So it's basically all deposited underground. But that isn't sort of raw sewage by that stage. By the time it gets up to there, it's kind of like the sort of worm juice that you might get out of a small domestic worm farm. Yeah, it works really well. There's a small vent, the pipe that you can see just has a vent on the top that goes in the wind and takes some of the gases away. There's also a secondary pump that takes care of groundwater, because apparently if you get a really heavy rainfall, the tank actually could potentially float out of the ground. I don't know if ours would actually do that, but if there is any water around the tank, that also gets pumped away so that the tank doesn't float away. Yeah, it's really not terribly restrictive. I guess you do have to be careful with the stuff that you put in there. It will take any kind of food waste, vegetable waste, and anything like that, but you do have to be careful not to put bleach or any caustic chemicals in there that would kill the worms. But yeah, no, aside from that, it's just working for us really well. Okay, up on the roof behind me, you can see two important pieces of our infrastructure. The dish is for our NBN satellite internet. Obviously, that's pretty crucial to enable us to work at home. When we first started working from home, I'm not sure if you can just see on the far top corner of the building, just there somewhere, there's an antenna. That antenna is actually for 3G, 4G, because we don't have very good 3G, 4G coverage. So that does actually make 4G just about workable here. But we were finding that we had some speed issues with the internet. So we had the satellite installed, and that's been absolutely fantastic. Often seems to be like that people in Melbourne now have the problems with their internet connections, while we're fine out here. So yeah, it's been great. We've no problem streaming TV through that. All of our WebEx meetings and work stuff is no problem at all. So that's really good. Also behind me, you can see the water heater on the high roof on the tower there. So that's obviously a solar water heater, which heats the water out of the tank, which you may be able to see just down below it there. There's an instantaneous gas heater that just tops that off when the water's not too hot. But yeah, essentially we've got a more or less endless supply of hot water, so we never have to be too concerned about that. And that's a pretty efficient system. So that was my little taster of life at the Strawbale house. As you can see, I'm just finishing up the video behind me, which is the video you're watching right now. So yeah, no, thanks to all the wonderful people in the innovation team for letting me put this together and share with you. I'm sure there'll be some questions, so I will be online to answer them. Thanks for watching.